Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. Happy Friday everyone. Today we're going to be continuing our series about the legends of watchmaking. We're going to be discussing another watchmaker who is extremely influential when it comes to the history of watches. If you haven't seen our other videos where we talk about watchmakers such as Louis Moinet and Abraham Breguet, be sure to check out those videos. We have a playlist where you can see all of those other watches. Today we're going to be discussing a very influential watchmaker who is based in Paris, France. His name was Nicolas Mathieu Rieussec. He was hugely influential in the development of the chronograph movement, which is, if you don't know, one of my favorite movements. I have this vintage. This was my first ever vintage watch that I ever purchased, and it was a chronograph. It's a yacht timer that utilizes a Valjoux watch movement, a Valjoux 7737 chronograph watch movement. So chronographs are one of my favorites. It's also considered one of the hardest watch complications to actually make, so by watchmakers. Nicolas Rieussec was extremely influential in this. He was actually thought to have been the first person to actually create a chronograph until 2013, where Louis Moinet's pocket watch was actually discovered, but it was known as being the first chronograph ever produced. So he still holds a very important part of watchmaking within his history. So we're gonna go through his life, tell you a little bit about his inventions, and kind of discuss his history. So if you don't know the cadence of these videos, that's going to be what it is. But before we get into his kind of life, if you are new to the channel, welcome to Life on the Wrist. Be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as smash the like button for us. It really does help us out, kind of get these videos to more people. So be sure to hit that as well. It's also Friday, so you might as well be nice because the weekend is upon us. Going into Nicolas Rieussec's life, he was actually born in Paris, France, like I discussed in the beginning of the video, on July 20th, 1781. And this was actually just before the French Revolution started, so it was a very tense part of France's life, France's history, and I guess he kind of grew up with all of that happening around him. He became a watchmaker in Paris, and he actually appeared in this book that was released every year in Paris, which discussed the different businesses that were located in Paris, and he is in the 1810 edition of this book, which included actually 222 watchmakers, a very cool number, but also an amazing amount, how many were actually located in one city. Over 200 watchmakers to be located in one city is pretty incredible. He appeared in that book, and he actually continued to make watches, throughout his early life. And in 1817, another kind of significant part about his history was that he became one of 7 watchmakers for the King of France, which is obviously an honor to make watches for royal families. And I think that's a very big, significant part of his life, and probably a very prestigious part of being a watchmaker in France. So he became one of the 7 watchmakers for the King of France, and he actually applied for a warrant as a watchmaker for the Royal Furniture Depository, which kind of led him to become the watchmaker for the king. During the time, the King of France the King of France was really into horse racing, and he commissioned a watch to be created that would allow him to time the amount of, basically time a horse race and see how fast horses can actually go around these tracks. The king commissioned this watch to be created, and Nicolas Rieussec obviously was going to oblige and create this watch for the King of England. So he set off to create the device, and luckily his brother was actually an extremely important figure within the French Equestrian circle, and had a lot of contacts and knew a lot of people that allowed for Nicolas Rieussec to kind of be involved in and get special passes and kind of test out his device as he kind of created it. So continued to work on it, and then in 1821 he was given the opportunity to present the invention to the French Academy of Science. During this time, I think 2 weeks prior, it was actually presented to Breguet, which was another watchmaker who we've discussed in his own video. And it was given to him and another watchmaker who ended up looking at the watch and examining it for specific horological elements and making sure that it was of the highest quality. And during this presentation, the French Academy of Science ended up approving the watch as a chronograph. And once receiving that approval from the French Academy of Science, Rieussec decided to pursue a patent for this watch and ended up receiving one. With the stamp of approval from the French Academy of Science, it's a little bit easier to do so. And so, with this invention, he ended up, presenting it to the king, who was extremely happy with the device. However, with the patent, Rieussec decided that this was a great opportunity to commercialize the invention. And so he ended up commercializing it with the help of, his brother and the connections that he had within the French Equestrian Society. He was able to commercialize the watch and sell it to a lot more people. And I think this is kind of where Rieussec's, influence within the watchmaking within the watchmaking industry is that it was the first time that a chronograph was actually commercialized and sold to multiple people instead of just being a one-off device. So, with the connections through his brother, he was able to sell it, and it was a very successful launch. And this was basically like the first chronograph that was ever really, I want to say, like sold in masses. Obviously, there probably weren't that many that were made. I don't know the accurate number, but was an extremely important part of the history of the chronograph when you really think about it. During this time, Rieussec actually did have a son, but there is no real history of his son taking over the business from Nicolas, and his kind of watchmaking era kind of ended when he passed away in 1866 on June the 18th in Paris, France. So he was a true Parisian gentleman. So his kind of watchmaking or his watch company's journey kind of ended there. It's a very short and very, I don't want to say short, but there was a lot that went into this gentleman's life. I'll say that this was an extremely important part about the commercialization of a chronograph. When you think about a watch, like I mentioned, this memo sale is a chronograph. I purchased it. The purchases of this chronograph probably really did stem from Nicolas Rieussec's commercialization of his chronograph. I think this is also a really cool testament to the fact that watches were utilities at the beginning. When it comes down to it, watches were used for a specific purpose, whether it's a diver, like the Submariner, or this one, which is essentially a watch that was used to time horse races. They are tools, and if you continue to have that in your mind, it kind of makes it a little bit easier to kind of connect with the watches, because you realize they're not just luxury items. Obviously they are relatively expensive, but they should be a tool. So Nicolas Rieussec definitely added to that whole kind of element of creating watches that were tools, and I think it's a really cool history. His connection with his brother, who is part of the French Equestrian Society, really assisted his commercialization and creation of this chronograph. I think he, after creating the first one, he ended up making some improvements and created the second one. I'll be sure to put up some pictures of it so you can see it. But a very cool history of the chronograph, and a cool watchmaker who was extremely influential in the development of the chronograph. So if you like this video, be sure to check out our other videos where we discuss other watchmakers who had extremely major roles to play within the history of watchmaking. If you haven't seen them, be sure to check out the playlist where we have other episodes. Also, if you made it this far and you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel, and while you're by that subscribe button, be sure to smash the like button for us. It really does help us out. Gets us videos to people who are interested in watches and the history of the chronograph in the cases of this one. So thank you so much for watching this episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time.